Hi, movie recapped here. I'm going to explain a sci-fi horror movie called Mimic. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The movie opens in Manhattan, where cockroaches are spreading a deadly disease, causing a large number of children to die. Desperate to stop the epidemic, Dr. Peter Mann, a deputy head of the Center for Disease Control, or the CDC, brings in entomologist Susan Tyler. She uses genetic engineering to create a hybrid insect called the Judas bug. It is designed to release an enzyme that accelerates the cockroach's metabolism, causing them to starve to death. Susan also designs the Judas to have short lifespan, ensuring that they all die in a few months so that they won't disrupt the ecosystem. After a round of testing, the CDC then releases these specialized bugs into the underground sewer canals of Manhattan. Just like they had hoped, the cockroaches are wiped off pretty quickly. In a short time, the disease is eradicated. Millions of children are saved. And Peter and Susan even get married. The end? Nope. 3 years later, in a building in Manhattan, a priest is seen running from a mysterious attacker. He quickly rushes to the roof and scales down the side of the building. The attacker, however, soon catches up to him, causing the priest to lose his footing. He falls down towards the alley below and dies upon impact. Moments later, a young autistic boy from a neighboring building named sees the priest's body being dragged into the sewers. He notices the attacker's shoes, but doesn't tell his father. Manny he saw. Elsewhere, Peter is called to an investigation scene where police have found illegal immigrants and are holding them in a building. Peter's colleague, Josh, tells him that the inhabitants have yellow fever. The building is also a front for an illegal sweatshop factory being run by the priests who earlier fell to his death. Peter then orders to quarantine everyone in the building, including the first responders to the scene. Elsewhere, Susan arrives at her laboratory with a friend where 2 neighborhood boys are eager to sell a collection of insect samples. Among several other samples, the kids offer Susan a weird bug they found in the subway for $10. The entomologist accepts the offer, and the kids hand her a cereal box containing the creature. But she doesn't open it right away, as she and her friends have a lot of work to do. The entomologist didn't open the mystery bug box. I call bullshit few hours later. Susan notices that the cereal box is shaking quite violently. She gets her equipment and slices the box, only to make a shocking discovery. The weird bug looks exactly similar to Judas she had created 3 years ago. When Susan tries to examine the creature, it latches onto her gloves, so she quickly stabs it with a scalpel and places it on a tray. "Get on that tray, you damn old bug!" Following this, Susan reviews her old research notes, searching if there are species similar to the Judas bug. She is so caught up in it, as she doesn't notice a strange figure approaching her window. The shadowy, hooded figure enters her lab and makes its way to the tray, where the Judas bug is pinned down. Come here." Meanwhile, Susan takes a confirmatory enzyme test from the insect's blood sample. The results confirm her fear that it is, indeed, the Judas bug from 3 years ago. Her train of thought is suddenly interrupted by a thumping sound. Susan looks around her lab and sees that the bug has vanished. She also notices a shadow moving in the darkness, but cannot decipher what it is. Suddenly, the figure flies past her out through the window. That night, Susan informs Peter that the specimen she got from the kids is undoubtedly the Judas bug. The latter is surprised, knowing that the Judas bugs only live for a generation. Even more baffling as the fact that the specimen was just a hatchling. It is beyond doubt that these bugs are not just alive, but also they fuck in the following day. The husband and wife head to the nearest subway station, where they meet the 2 boys who sold the bug. The kids point them towards an old maintenance room where the insect was picked up. Susan and Peter then enter the old room, where they find a hidden hole behind a metal cabinet. But before they can explore it further, a local policeman named Leonard barges in. He chastises the couple for access in the room without permit. "I'm Leonard, man," and forces them to get out. Peter gets mad, but agrees to return some other time with the proper papers. Soon afterwards, Susan meets Chewie and Manny, who are also at the subway. She discovers that Chewie is an extremely intelligent kid who can memorize things pretty quickly. Late that night at home, Chewie hears strange clicking sounds coming from the neighboring quarantined building. His father is asleep, so the kid goes in to investigate all by himself. Inside, he finds a chapel with everything covered up. While the clicking sounds get louder, the kid begins to mimic the sound. And soon, a figure that looks like a person in an overcoat approaches him. Another similar figure comes up behind him, and they begin to encircle the little boy. before we can see what happened with Chewie. The scene shifts to a water treatment plant in Manhattan. Cleaning staff fish out some sort of dead creature from the filtering tanks, and initially suspect it to be a toddler. But upon closer inspection, they realize it is some kind of a giant insect. The very next day, Susan gets a call to go to the water treatment plant. She arrives shortly with her friend, and they examine the captured specimen. To their horror, they realize that it's a Judas bug, almost as big as a dog. Susan takes pictures of the creature and asks her friend to have them delivered to a lab. For detailed analysis, double-check that that's how big dogs are. Meanwhile, Manny discovers that Chewie is missing. He quickly notices that the window near his bed is open and speculates that the little boy may have gone into the building next to them. Elsewhere, Peter and Josh go back to the subway station with a permit and meet the cop, Leonard. There they access the maintenance room and find that the gaping hole in the wall descends at least 5 stories underground. The trio goes in carrying lab equipment, hoping to find the Judas's nest. While this is happening, Manny calls the police about his missing son, but gets his report waitlisted. This forces him to take matters into his own hands, so he heads into the building through a nearby sewer entrance with nothing but a lighter. A few hours later, Susan arrives at a subway station and waits for her train home. Right below the same station, Leonard. Josh and Peter find a room with thief seas all over the walls. "Leonard, you've been shitting on the walls again." Susan, meanwhile, passes her time by examining the photographs she took at the water treatment plant. When she finally pulls her attention away from the photos, she realizes that she's alone at the station. There is only one person standing a few meters away, someone who appears to be wearing a trench coat and a hat. Just as she decides to walk away, the figure reveals itself to be a giant Judas bug, the size of an adult human. Top of the morning, frightened, Susan starts running, but the beast flies forward and takes her into the tunnels underneath the station. In the meantime, Peter and Josh gather specimens from the walls. They're pulling up off the walls. Leonard stands nearby on an old wooden platform. Looking at the remnants of the old subway, a minor Judas bug soon comes up the platform and he squishes it. Peter sees this and rushes to save it, but it is too late. Both men are now standing on the platform and seconds later gives way. They both fall to the level below, and Josh is left alone above. After getting back to his feet, Leonard tasks Josh to go back and get help. The latter initially hesitates, but realizes that there's no other way to pull his friends back up. Somewhere else in the same network of underground sewer canals, Susan wakes up after a while. She sees several rotting human bodies and grabs a nearby metal pipe to defend herself. She then cautiously explores the tunnels, only to see more paths in all directions. One of these has natural light coming from overhead, so she heads that way. Turns out the light is coming in from an overhead sewer opening. People are walking over it. Susan tries to scream for help, but instead attracts the attention of one of the Judas bugs. It flies towards her, but she impales it with the pipe and bolts. Another bug chases her, but she manages to escape through a maintenance hole opening. Meanwhile, Josh tries to find his way back and soon sees an opening above. He attempts to climb out, but balls making a loud thud, which awakens the nearby bugs. Frightened, Josh hurries back up, reaching for a rope, but the beast catches his leg. He soon starts bleeding from the mouth and is, unfortunately, pulled back to his death. On the other hand, Susan hears movement above her and looks up at the metal maintenance hole she escaped from. To her surprise, she sees Manny, who has been looking for his son nearby. Peter and Leonard explore the chasm, believing Josh will return soon with help. Leonard then notices an old train car and tells Peter about this, but the latter is uninterested. "Man, you don't like trains." Leonard do at this moment. Manny comes rushing out of one of the nearby tunnels and tells them about Susan. Soon afterwards, the 3 men help her get back up, but a Judas bug hears the commotion and starts coming towards their direction. Thankfully, they manage to pull Susan up and close the lid, but the beast is hot on their heels. They run back to the large chasm and hide in the train car. Leonard then takes out his gun and fires several rounds at the bug, but at Eve's coming meanwhile, Peter slams the train car's door and the bug gets stuck halfway in. It tries to pull itself but ends up tearing its body in half, with the upper half crawling under a seat. Peter then helps Leonard pull it out so they can kill it. They drag the bug out, but Leonard momentarily drops his guard, which gives the creature enough time to slash his leg. "Ow, my damn leg!" Nonetheless, he fires several more bullets. Finally killing it, they then lock themselves inside the train car, and Peter tends to Leonard's wounds. On the other hand, Manny helps Susan examine the dead bug, but she notices that the insect has developed organs like lungs. He speculates when she genetically increased the Judas's metabolism, she also accelerated their breeding cycle. In 3 years, these bugs could have reproduced over several 100,000. generations allowing for exponential evolution. She also adds that animals in the wild sometimes evolve to mimic their predators, which may explain why the Judas bugs have stayed hidden. It now becomes clear that these insects have evolved to mimic humans. All they do is complain, have sex, and watch reality TV. Suddenly, a swarm of Judas bugs charges at the train car. Susan realizes the blood from Leonard's wound is attracting them. The U.S. takes the dead bug's scent glands, rubs them all over the cabin, and tells everyone to do the same with their bodies. The plan fortunately works. As the cheeky bugs get confused and leave from there, they're dumb and easily deceived. Also, like humans, a few moments later, Leonard finds an old map of the train station and sees that they may have a chance to escape. They need to switch the tracks and rewire a fuse box to get the train moving toward the nearest exit. Peter decides that he and Manny should be the ones to go out. So, the two rub the scent glands on themselves and split up for the task. Manny heads for the track switch while Peter goes to the fuse box. Several tense minutes pass by as Manny searches for the track switch, but instead finds Chewie. Turns out the little kid survived the insects because he could mimic their sounds. Just as Manny tries to get his son, a Judas sneaks up behind and stabs him through the chest. Poor Chewie screams in horror as his father is impaled to death. Leonard and Susan see this through the dirty windows of the train car. Although devastated, she decides to sneak out and hopefully get the little kid back to safety. Seconds later, Peter gets the fuse box running and the lights in the car turn on. Leonard then starts the train's engine, but it runs into a problem and starts smoking. He is also profusely bleeding, which is sure to attract the beasts. So he makes a conscious decision to sacrifice himself, so that the others can escape. By this time, Susan grabs Chewie and they head toward the track switch. Peter, meanwhile, finds a small lift that goes all the way to the surface. Leonard, who has been watching all of this, realizes that the time has come. He thus disembarks the train car, singing and letting himself bleed, which draws the bugs towards him. Come get me, man. Come get Leonard with the coast now clear. Peter bolts towards Chewie and Susan and takes them to the small left. They get in, but Peter stays behind, as he wants to stop the bugs right here, instead of letting them escape to the surface. Meanwhile, after killing Leonard, the bugs turn their attention towards the remaining humans. Some of these insects are incredibly intelligent and quickly learn how the pulley system of the lift works. One of them tries to cut the cable holding up the left, but Susan and Chewie escape just in time. The left, however, falls and traps the bugs underground. On the other hand, Peter crawls through a tunnel and suddenly finds himself in a huge chamber where there are thousands of Judas's eggs. Coincidentally, there are also gas pipes running throughout the floor, which gives him an idea. Peter grabs an axe lying nearby and begins smashing the pipes open. Flammable gas then leaks out and quickly fills the whole room. Moments later, several adult female bugs find the tunnel that Peter sneaked in through. They quickly fly towards him. So Peter takes out a lighter from his pocket and tries to ignite the gas. Unfortunately, the lighter malfunctions and falls into the sewer water below. This forces a desperate Peter to strike his axe against steel to create a spark just as the Judas bugs descend on him. Peter manages to spark the gas, and the entire sewer system explodes on the streets above. Utility hole covers are launched into the air. Cars ignite and fire bursts out from the sewers. Susan and Chewie, who have made it to the train tracks far enough from the sewer system, also get thrown several feet away due to the explosion. However, their problems only increase as the fertile male Judas bug appears nearby. Susan sees that there is a train coming towards their direction and quickly hatches a plan. She wounds herself to attract the male's attention and runs towards the oncoming train. The Judas bug chases her, and just before the train hits them, she jumps out of the way, but the bug isn't so lucky, as it is squished under the train's wheels. Susan then finds Chewie and pulls him to safety. Sometime later, firefighters, police, and medical personnel swarm the streets, trying to get everything under control. Susan and Chewie have also been rescued, and an official tells them that all the bugs have been exterminated. How the hell would you know that moments later? Peter ascends from the underground subway station. Turns out he had managed to jump into the sewer water right before the gas explosion could reach him. Leonard is still dead as hell, though as the movie draws to an end, Susan and Chewie rush to him and the three embrace intimately. I hope you don't think I'm adopting that kid, baby. Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out.